A cop put his hands on me in the middle of a luxury mall, and I didn't say a word. I'm 73 years old. My knees don't bend like they used to. My reflexes aren't what they were when I spent 30 years behind the wheel of a school bus, protecting other people's children. But I still know the difference between right and wrong, and what that officer did to me was wrong. It was Black Friday. San Diego. One of those shiny places with marble floors and crystal chandeliers, where every footstep echoes and everything whispers, "You don't belong here." I was holding a pink dollhouse box for my granddaughter Michelle, the one she'd circled in the catalog 3 times and written "Please Grandpa" next to in purple crayon. Her little winter coat was draped over my arm. The line outside the luxury store stretched halfway to the food court. People pushing, shoving, clutching phones like weapons. Security everywhere. And then I saw him, Officer Derek. I didn't know his name yet. Just saw the uniform, the badge, the way he walked like the floor owed him something. 40-something, thick neck, hand resting on his belt like he was waiting for someone to give him a reason. He stopped in front of me, not anyone else, me. I was maybe 6 inches too close to the velvet rope. That's all. Just a tired old man who couldn't move fast enough through a crowd that didn't want to let him through. "Move back," he said. I shifted my weight, tried to step aside. "Get out." Louder now. Loud enough for the whole line to hear. Loud enough for mothers to pull their children closer. "You don't belong here. You don't belong here." Those 4 words hit me before his hand did. I opened my mouth, "I'm just buying a gift for my granddaughter," but the words never made it out. His palm hit my chest like a piston. One hard shove. And then I was falling. The dollhouse box flew from my grip and landed face down on the marble. Michelle's coat floated down like a wounded bird. My shoulder hit first, then my hip, then the back of my head, missing the tile's edge by an inch. Pain exploded through my side, like lightning. The crowd gasped. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Someone else laughed. And Derek just stood there, hands still out, smirking like he'd swatted a fly. I lay on that cold marble floor, 73 years of life pressed flat against stone, and one thought burned through my mind. I survived 3 decades, driving other people's children to school safely, and this man thinks I'm the danger? A young man's phone was pointed at me. Recording. I'd learn his name later. Louis. He'd matter more than either of us knew. "You don't belong here." The words kept echoing as I pulled myself up. My hip screamed. My shoulder throbbed. When I picked up the dollhouse box, the little display window was cracked. Michelle's tiny furniture had scattered inside like a crime scene. I looked at Officer Derek, really looked at him while he stood there with that smirk, believing he'd won. I didn't shout. I didn't swing. I didn't curse. But somewhere between the pain in my bones and the fire in my chest, I made a decision. This man had tried to take my dignity in front of strangers. He'd put his hands on me like I was nothing. Like 73 years of living, working, and loving didn't mean a thing. He thought this was over. He was wrong. Let me tell you who I am, so you understand why that shove didn't just bruise my body, it cut straight through my soul. My name is Austin. Austin Ray Williams. I'm 73 years old, black, and I've lived in the same neighborhood in San Diego for 41 years. The house isn't much: 2 bedrooms, a patched roof, a front porch where I drink my coffee every morning and wave at the mailman like we're old friends. Because we are. I was a school bus driver for 30 years. Route 14. The 715 pickup that started on Maple and ended at Jefferson Elementary, then looped back for the middle schoolers at noon. I drove that route so long, I watched kids grow up, graduate, have kids of their own, and then I drove their children too. You want to know what 30 years on a school bus teaches you? Patience. How to break up a fight with your voice, not your fists. How to spot the quiet kid in the back who's being bullied before it turns ugly. How to earn respect without demanding it. I never once put my hands on a child. Not once. Even when they cursed at me. Even when they threw things, I'd pull that bus over, look them in the eye, and say, "We're not moving until you sit down and act like the person your mama raised." Worked every time. So when that officer, a grown man with a badge and a gun, put his hands on me for standing 6 inches too close to a velvet rope, something inside me cracked. Not just my pride. Something deeper. The belief that if you live right, treat people with respect, and mind your business, the world will do the same for you. You don't belong here. I kept hearing it. In the car, on the way home. In the shower that night. In my sleep. But let me rewind. Let me tell you how that Black Friday morning started. Before it all went wrong, I woke up at 5:15 a.m. Same as always. My body doesn't know how to sleep past sunrise anymore. 30 years of early roots will do that to you. I made my coffee, watched the news on low, and thought about Michelle. She's 9 years old. My daughter Carrie's only child. Got my late wife's eyes and my stubbornness. She's the reason I get up in the morning. If I'm being honest, after Lorraine passed 6 years ago, Michelle became my heartbeat. That catalog had been sitting on my kitchen table for 2 weeks. Michelle had gone through it with a purple crayon like she was marking treasure maps. But the dollhouse, that's the one she kept coming back to, circled it 3 times, drew little hearts, wrote, "Please Grandpa," with the P backwards. How do you say no to that? I'd seen the ad. Black Friday sale, 40% off. That dollhouse was normally $120 more than I'd spend on myself in a month. But at $72, I could swing it. Barely. So I put on my good jacket, the brown one Lorraine bought me before she got sick, climbed into my old Chevy Silverado truck, the one with 190,000 miles and a passenger door that sticks. And I drove to that fancy mall across town, the one I'd never stepped foot in before. I felt out of place the moment I walked in. The floors were too shiny. The people were too polished. Everything smelled like expensive perfume and quiet judgment. But I kept walking. For Michelle, I found the store, joined the line, held that pink box against my chest like it was made of gold. And then Officer Derek decided I didn't belong. The drive home was silent. No radio, no humming. Just me, the cracked dollhouse box on the passenger seat, and a bruise forming on my hip that would turn purple by morning. When I pulled into my driveway, I sat there for a long time, engine off, hands on the wheel, staring at nothing. You don't belong here. 30 years I kept other people's children safe. 30 years I earned my place in this world through patience and dignity. And in 30 seconds, a man with a badge made me feel like none of it mattered. I looked at the dollhouse box, the cracked window, the scattered furniture inside. Then I looked at my front door. Carrie's car was in the driveway. She and Michelle were inside, probably wondering what was taking me so long. I had a choice. Walk in there, hide the bruise, and pretend it never happened. Let the shame swallow me whole. Teach my granddaughter, without saying a word, that some people can hurt you and get away with it. Or, I grabbed the box, climbed out of the truck, and limped toward the door. When Carrie saw my face, her smile disappeared. "Daddy? What happened to you?" I didn't answer right away. I just looked at Michelle, sitting on the couch with her purple crayon, waiting for her grandpa to come home. And I knew whatever I did next, she'd be watching. Carrie was in front of me before I could even close the door. "Daddy." Her voice cracked. "Your face. What happened to your face?" I hadn't looked in a mirror yet. Didn't need to. I could feel the swelling above my left eye, where my head had nearly cracked against the tile. Could feel the heat radiating from my cheekbone, like a slow fire. "It's nothing," I said. The lie tasted sour before it even left my mouth. "That's not nothing." Carrie grabbed my arm, gentle but firm, the way she used to grab Michelle when she wandered too close to the street. "Sit down. Right now." I let her guide me to the couch. Michelle looked up from her coloring book, purple crayon frozen mid-stroke. Her eyes went wide. "Grandpa, you got a boo-boo?" 9 years old. Still young enough to call it a boo-boo. I wanted to keep it that way. Grandpa's fine. Baby girl. Just bumped into something at the store. Carrie wasn't buying it. She disappeared into the kitchen and came back with a bag of frozen peas wrapped in a dishcloth. Pressed it to my face harder than necessary. Talk, she said. Now. So, I talked. I told her about the mall. The line. The officer with the thick neck and the hand on his belt. I told her about the shove, how fast it happened, how hard I fell, how the whole crowd just stood there and watched. I told her what he said. You don't belong here. Carrie's jaw tightened. I watched her cycle through every emotion a daughter shouldn't have to feel about her father: fear, rage, helplessness, grief. When I finished, she was quiet for a long time. Did you get his name? His badge number? No. Did anyone see? Any witnesses? I thought about the young man with the phone. Louis. Maybe. There was someone recording. Carrie exhaled, sat down next to me, took my hand like I was the child now. Daddy. Listen to me. Her voice dropped low so Michelle wouldn't hear. I know this hurts. I know it's not fair. But these things, they don't end well for people like us. You file a complaint, they bury it. You go to the news, they twist it. And if that cop has friends... She stopped. Swallowed. I can't lose you too. I understood what she wasn't saying. She'd already lost her mother. Watched Lorraine shrink away over 18 months until there was nothing left to hold. Carrie couldn't survive another loss. And going to war with a police officer felt like asking for one. Maybe we just let it go, she whispered. You're okay. You're home. Michelle doesn't need to know the details. I looked across the room at my granddaughter. She'd gone back to her coloring book, tongue poking out in concentration, filling in a picture of a butterfly with that purple crayon. Whatever I did next, she'd be watching. Not today. Not right now. But someday. Michelle would be old enough to understand what happened to her grandfather on Black Friday. She'd ask why he came home with a bruise and a cracked dollhouse and a look in his eyes like something had been stolen. And what would I tell her? That I let it go? That I stayed quiet because it was easier? That I taught 30 years' worth of children to stand up for themselves? But when my turn came, I sat down? No, Carrie blinked. What? No. I said it louder this time. Not angry, just certain. I'm not letting it go, Daddy. I spent my whole life teaching other people's kids that respect matters, that you don't let bullies win, that doing the right thing isn't always the easy thing. I squeezed her hand. What kind of man would I be if I didn't teach my own granddaughter the same lesson? Carrie's eyes filled with tears. She didn't argue. She just nodded, slow and heavy, like she'd known all along this was coming. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. Mr. Williams? This is Louis. Louis Carter. I was at the mall today. I recorded what that cop did to you. A pause. I thought you might want the video. I closed my eyes. Felt something shift in my chest, not hope, not yet. But the first flicker of it. Yes, I said. I want it. And I want to know if you'd be willing to share it with more than just me. Sir, I've been waiting for you to ask. I hung up, looked at Carrie, looked at Michelle, still coloring her butterfly, oblivious to the storm building around her. Then I walked to the kitchen, pulled out a notepad, and wrote down 3 names. People who could help, people who would listen, people who'd been waiting, maybe without knowing it, for someone to finally fight back. The video was coming, and so was I. The coffee shop on Martin Luther King Boulevard had been there longer than I'd been alive. Faded photographs on the walls, cracked leather booths patched with duct tape. The kind of place where everybody knew your name and your business, whether you wanted them to or not. I sat in the back booth, nursing a cup of black coffee that had gone cold 20 minutes ago. The notepad was in front of me. Those 3 names staring back like a dare. Paul Harrison, Detective Lindsay Monroe, Louis Carter. The bell above the door chimed. I looked up. Paul walked in like he owned the room, not arrogant, just certain. 62 years old, silver beard trimmed neat, shoulders still broad from the construction work he'd done before becoming a community organizer. He'd helped shut down a predatory payday loan shop 2 years back. Got a crosswalk installed near the elementary school after a kid was nearly hit. Small victories, but real ones. He slid into the booth across from me and studied my face without saying a word. His eyes lingered on the bruise, now deep purple and swollen halfway shut. "Austin Williams," he said finally. "The bus driver. Retired. Man, half this neighborhood grew up on your route. My nephew Darnell still talks about how you made him apologize to a girl he'd been teasing, made him write her a note and everything." Paul smiled, but it faded fast. "Now tell me what happened to your face." So I told him. Every detail. The mall, the rope, the shove, the fall, those 4 words that wouldn't stop echoing. When I finished, Paul leaned back and let out a long breath. "You got proof?" I pulled out my phone. Lewis had sent the video at 11:47 the night before. I'd watched it 6 times already, each time feeling that cold marble against my back all over again. I pressed play. The footage was shaky at first, just crowd noise and chaos. Then it steadied. You could see me standing there, pink box under my arm, not bothering anyone. You could see Derek approach, hand already raised. And then, clear as daylight, his voice cut through the noise. "Get out. You don't belong here." The shove. The fall. My body hitting the floor like a bag of old bones. The gasp from the crowd. And Derek, standing over me with that smirk while I struggled to get up. Paul watched, without blinking. When it ended, he set the phone down gently, like it was evidence in a murder trial. "That man's done," he said quietly. "He just doesn't know it yet. I don't want revenge, Paul. I want accountability." "That's even better." He leaned forward, elbows on the table. "Listen to me, Austin. I've seen cases like this before. Man gets roughed up by a cop, files a complaint. It disappears into some bureaucratic black hole, and nothing happens. You know why? Because nobody's watching." "Exactly." Paul tapped the phone. "But now, people will be watching. We just have to be smart about how we do this." He laid it out step by step, like a general planning a campaign. Step 1. File a formal complaint. With Internal Affairs. Paper trail. Official record. No one could say we didn't go through proper channels. Step 2. Wait. Let them try to bury it. Offer some weak apology. Suggest retraining instead of consequences. Document everything. Step 3. When they inevitably fail to act, we release the video. Not to some national news outlet too easy to spin, too easy to lose control. We release it locally. Neighborhood Facebook groups, church bulletins, community boards. Let the people who know Austin Williams see what was done to him. By the time it spreads, Paul said, it won't be about a random old man getting shoved. It'll be about Mr. Austin. The bus driver. The man who kept their kids safe for 30 years. And then, let's see that officer explain why he felt threatened by a 73-year-old grandfather holding a dollhouse. I sat with it for a moment. The plan was patient, strategic. Everything I'd spent my life believing in. "What about Detective Lindsay?" I asked. "You mentioned her on the phone." "Internal Affairs. One of the few who actually takes the job seriously. She's been waiting for a case like this, something with clear evidence, a credible victim, and a cop who's already got prior complaints." Paul raised an eyebrow. "Yeah, I did some digging. Your officer Derek? He's had 3 complaints in the last 2 years. Aggression toward elderly people. Nothing stuck because nobody fought back." My chest tightened. "I'm not the first? No, Austin. But if we do this right, you'll be the last." I looked down at the notepad. 3 names, 3 allies. Then, I picked up my coffee, took a long sip even though it was cold, and nodded. "Let's begin." Detective Lindsay Monroe's office was nothing like I expected. No fancy desk, no wall of commendations. Just a small room with fluorescent lights that buzzed like dying flies, a metal filing cabinet stuffed to bursting, and a woman who looked like she hadn't slept in 3 days. She was younger than I'd imagined, mid-40s, maybe. Short natural hair, reading glasses pushed up on her forehead, sleeves rolled to her elbows, like she was ready to dig ditches. When I walked in, she stood and shook my hand firmly. "Mr. Williams, thank you for coming in. Thank you for seeing me." She gestured to a chair across from her desk. I sat. My hip still ached from the fall, a dull throb that reminded me every few minutes why I was here. Paul had set up the meeting, told me Lindsay was different from most internal affairs investigators, that she'd joined the department 15 years ago believing she could change it from the inside. That belief had cost her promotions, friendships, and probably a marriage. But she was still here, still fighting. "I've reviewed the video," she said, pulling up a file on her computer. "Watched it 11 times, frame by frame. And?" She turned the monitor so I could see. The footage was frozen on the moment before the shove. Derek's hand raised, my body still upright, the pink dollhouse box visible under my arm. "His report says you stepped aggressively toward him and that he responded with minimal force to de-escalate a potential threat." She looked at me over her glasses. "Does that match what you experienced?" "Ma'am, I'm 73 years old with 2 bad knees. The only thing I've stepped aggressively toward in the last decade is the bathroom at 3 a.m. A smile flickered across her face, gone as fast as it came. "The video contradicts his account completely. You were stationary. He initiated contact. And his language..." She paused the footage, rewound, pressed play. "Get out. You don't belong here. That's not de-escalation. That's provocation." She closed the laptop and folded her hands. "Mr. Williams, I'm opening a formal investigation. I need your statement on record. Everything you remember, what you saw, what you heard, what you felt. Can you do that?" "Yes, ma'am." For the next 40 minutes, I talked. She listened, typing notes, asking, clarifying questions without ever making me feel like a suspect. When I described hitting the floor, the cold marble against my back, the laughter from somewhere in the crowd, her jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. When we finished, she leaned back. "I'm going to be honest with you, Mr. Williams. This department protects its own. There are people above me who will try to make this go away. But I've been waiting for a case like this: clear evidence, credible witness, documented pattern." "Pattern?" She hesitated, then pulled a folder from her drawer. "Officer Derek Sloan. 3 prior complaints in 2 years. 2 involved elderly individuals. 1 involved a homeless veteran. All dismissed for insufficient evidence." She closed the folder. "You're the first one with video." My stomach turned. 3 others. 3 people he'd hurt before me. 3 people who tried to fight back and failed. What happens now? Now I build a case. And now, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, frowned. "Now you're going to get a phone call." The call came that evening. Not from Lindsay. From a man who introduced himself as Marcus Webb, Chief of Community Relations for the police department. His voice was smooth as butter on warm bread. "Mr. Williams, I want you to know how deeply sorry we are for your experience. This isn't who we are as a department." "Is that so?" "Absolutely. And I'd like to discuss a path forward that works for everyone. A formal apology. Perhaps some compensation for your medical expenses and emotional distress. We're also recommending Officer Sloan for additional training." "Training?" "Yes, sir. Sensitivity training. De-escalation refreshers. We believe in rehabilitation over punishment." I let the silence stretch. Outside my window, I could see Michelle's bicycle leaning against the garage. Purple streamers on the handlebars. "Mr. Webb, let me ask you something. If I had shoved a police officer to the ground in front of 50 witnesses, would you be offering me training?" Silence. That man put his hands on me, told me I didn't belong, left me on the floor like garbage. My voice was steady, but my hand was shaking. "I'm not looking for a coupon, Mr. Webb. I'm not looking for a settlement. I'm looking for consequences. Mr. Williams, I urge you to consider I've considered, and my answer is no. I hung up before he could respond. Then I sat in my chair, watching the sun set through the window, and waited for the war to begin. The church basement smelled like old hymnals and fresh coffee. Folding chairs had been arranged in rows, maybe 60 of them, facing a small projector screen that Paul had borrowed from the community center. When I arrived at 6:45, half the seats were already full. By 7, people were standing against the walls. I recognized faces. Mrs. Henderson, from 3 blocks over, who used to wave at my bus every morning. Darnell, Paul's nephew, now 26, with a baby on his hip. Mr. and Mrs. Okonkwo from the Nigerian restaurant on 5th Street. Teachers, mechanics, nurses, grandmothers, teenagers, people I'd driven to school, people whose children I'd driven to school, people who remembered me before my hair went gray and my knees went bad. Mr. Austin. A woman in her 30s pushed through the crowd and grabbed my hand. You probably don't remember me. Keisha Watkins. You drove me from 3rd grade until 8th. You stopped some boys from picking on me once, made them apologize in front of everybody. I did remember. Vaguely. A shy girl with braids who always sat in the front row. You told me something I never forgot, she continued. You said, "The world will try to make you small. Don't let it." I've been telling my daughter the same thing ever since. My throat tightened. I squeezed her hand and nodded, not trusting myself to speak. Paul stepped to the front of the room and raised his hand. The murmur died down. Thank you all for coming. I know it's a weeknight. I know you're tired. But what I'm about to show you is something you need to see. He looked at me. Something that was done to one of our own. He pressed play. The video filled the screen. Shaky at first, then steady. The marble floor. The crowd. Me. Standing with that pink dollhouse box. Not bothering anyone. And then Derek's voice, loud and clear through the church speakers. Get out. You don't belong here. The shove. My body hitting the floor. The gasp. The scattered furniture inside the cracked dollhouse window. And Derek, standing over me with that smirk. When it ended, the room was silent. Then someone in the back said, "That's Mr. Austin. That's the bus driver." And the dam broke. People started talking all at once. Voices rising, overlapping, filling the basement with a sound I can only describe as collective fury. An older man stood up and said his mother had been shoved by a security guard last year. No one believed her. A young woman said her uncle had been roughed up at a traffic stop. He was too scared to report it. Story after story. Pain after pain. All the times people had been pushed down and told to stay quiet. Paul let it go on for 10 minutes. Then he raised his hand again. This is why we're here. Not just for Austin, for all of us. Because what happened to him has been happening to people in this community for years. The only difference is, this time, we have proof. He outlined the plan. The formal complaint had been filed. Internal Affairs was investigating. But the department was already trying to bury it. Offering settlements. Whispering about retraining. They think if they wait long enough, we'll forget. They think, if they offer enough money, we'll go away. Paul's voice hardened. They're wrong. The video would go out tomorrow. Not to national news, not yet. 2 neighborhood Facebook groups. Church group chats. Local message boards. Let the community see what was done to Mr. Austin. Let them share it with everyone they knew. By the end of the week, Paul said, every person in this city will know that officer's face. And then let's see him explain why he felt threatened by a 73-year-old grandfather buying a toy for his granddaughter. The room erupted. Not in anger anymore, in something fiercer. Purpose. After the meeting, people lined up to shake my hand. Some hugged me. Some cried. A woman I didn't recognize pressed a folded $20 bill into my palm and said, "For Michelle. Buy her something nice." I tried to give it back. She wouldn't let me. Louis found me near the door, phone in hand. "Mr. Williams, it's already spreading. I posted it 2 hours ago. 47 shares, 63 comments. He showed me the screen. People are tagging the police department, tagging the news. This thing is catching fire. I looked at the numbers climbing in real time. Watched strangers type words like, disgusting, and arrest him, and this is somebody's grandfather. Somewhere across town, Officer Derek Sloan was probably sitting in his living room, confident that his badge would protect him. He had no idea what was coming. The hearing room smelled like old paper and sweat. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting everything in a pale, unforgiving glow. Rows of folding chairs faced a long table where 5 board members sat with nameplates and neutral expressions. Cameras lined the back wall, local news, phones, tablets, everyone recording, everyone watching. I sat at a small table near the front, hands folded, heart pounding so loud I was sure the whole room could hear it. Carrie was behind me, Paul beside her, Lewis near the aisle with his phone ready, and scattered throughout the crowd faces I recognized from the church basement. Keisha Watkins, Darnell, Mrs. Henderson, the Okonkwo's, people I'd driven to school, people who'd come to watch justice happen. Detective Lindsay sat to my left, a folder thick with documents open in front of her. She told me this morning that everything was ready. The video, the prior complaints, the contradictions in Derek's report. All she needed was for him to talk, and talk he would. Officer Derek Sloan entered from a side door, dressed in full uniform like he was expecting a commendation instead of a trial. His lawyer walked beside him, a slick man in a gray suit, who probably charged more per hour than I'd made in a week driving that bus. Derek scanned the room. When his eyes found mine, he didn't flinch, didn't look away, just stared, jaw tight, like I was the one who'd wronged him. You don't belong here, the words echoed in my head. But this time, I held his gaze until he looked away first. The board chair, a gray-haired woman named Commissioner Diane Holt, called the hearing to order. This proceeding concerns complaint 2024 to 1847, filed against Officer Derek Sloan regarding an incident on November 29th at Westfield Luxury Mall. She adjusted her glasses. Detective Monroe, please present your findings. Lindsay stood. Thank you, Commissioner. On the date in question, Officer Sloan was assigned to crowd control at the mall's Black Friday event. At approximately 10:47 a.m., he made contact with Mr. Austin Williams, a 73-year-old retired school bus driver who was waiting in line to purchase a gift for his granddaughter. She pressed a button. The video appeared on a large screen behind the board. The room went silent. I watched myself on that screen standing with the pink dollhouse box, not bothering anyone. Watched Derek approach. Watched his hand rise. Get out. You don't belong here. The shove. My body hitting the marble. The gasp from the crowd. The smirk. When it ended, Lindsay let the silence sit for 3 long seconds. Officer Sloan's incident report states that Mr. Williams stepped aggressively toward him and that he responded with minimal, necessary force. The video contradicts this account entirely. Mr. Williams was stationary. Officer Sloan initiated unprovoked physical contact. She opened her folder. Furthermore, Officer Sloan has 3 prior complaints on file, 2 involving elderly citizens, 1 involving a homeless veteran. All were dismissed due to insufficient evidence. She looked at the board. This time, we have evidence. Commissioner Holt turned to Derek. Officer Sloan, do you wish to respond? Derek's lawyer whispered something. Derek shook his head and stood. Ma'am, I've served this department for 12 years. 12 years of protecting this community. His voice was steady, rehearsed. On that day, I perceived a threat. The individual was too close to a secured perimeter. When I asked him to move, he stepped toward me. I responded as trained. A threat. Lindsay's voice was ice. You perceived a 73-year-old man holding a children's toy as a threat? I didn't know what was in that box. It was a dollhouse, Officer Sloan, for his 9-year-old granddaughter. Derek's jaw tightened. I made a judgment call. I stand by it. Commissioner Holt leaned forward. Mr. Williams, would you like to make a statement? I stood. My knees ached. My hip throbbed. But I stood. Ma'am, I spent 30 years driving children to school. 30 years breaking up fights with my voice, not my fists. I never once put my hands on a child who cursed at me or threw things at me, because I understood something that Officer Sloan apparently doesn't. I turned and looked directly at him. A badge doesn't give you the right to take someone's dignity. A uniform doesn't make you untouchable. And fear, real fear, doesn't come from a 7-3-year-old man holding a toy. It comes from knowing that someone with power can hurt you and face no consequences. My voice cracked, but I kept going. He didn't just shove me that day. He told me I didn't belong. In front of strangers, in front of cameras. He left me on that floor like I was nothing. Like 73 years of living, working, and loving didn't matter. I paused. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here because 3 other people tried to fight back and couldn't. I'm here so there won't be a fifth. The room was silent. Commissioner Holt called for a 15-minute recess. When they returned, she read the decision without looking up. Based on the evidence presented, this board finds Officer Derek Sloan in violation of Departmental Conduct, Codes 4.7, 5.2, and 6.1. Effective immediately, Officer Sloan is terminated from the San Diego Police Department. This finding will be entered into his permanent record. The room erupted. Derek's face went white. His lawyer grabbed his arm, whispering urgently. But Derek wasn't listening. He was staring at me. Not with anger anymore, but with something I hadn't expected. Fear. As he removed his badge and set it on the table, his hands were shaking. The smirk was gone. The arrogance was gone. All that remained was a man realizing, too late, that the floor he'd left me on had been waiting for him all along. He walked out without looking back, and I stayed in my seat, Carrie's hand on my shoulder, tears streaming down my face. Not from sadness, from relief. It was over. The Christmas tree was crooked. I'd wrestled with it for 20 minutes, trying to get the stand level, before Carrie finally took over and wedged a folded newspaper under one side. Not perfect, but good enough. The lights worked. The ornaments hung. And Michelle had placed her handmade paper angel at the very top, balanced on a branch that bent under its weight but didn't break. Good enough. It was 3 weeks after the hearing. The news coverage had faded. The social media posts had slowed. Life, as it always does, had moved on to the next outrage, the next injustice, the next viral moment. But not for me. For me, everything was different. I was sitting in my recliner, the one Lorraine had picked out 15 years ago because it was good for your back, watching Michelle tear through wrapping paper like it owed her money. Carrie sat on the couch, coffee in hand, laughing at her daughter's chaos. "Slow down, baby," Carrie said. "You're gonna miss something." "I'm not gonna miss anything, Mama. I'm efficient." 9 years old and already using words like efficient. Lord help us all. She'd already opened 3 presents, a purple sweater, a set of colored pencils, a book about butterflies. Good gifts, practical gifts. But I was waiting for her to reach the one in the corner, wrapped in silver paper with a red bow that Carrie had tied because my fingers don't work so well anymore. Michelle spotted it. Her eyes went wide. "Grandpa, is that?" "Open it and find out." She scrambled across the carpet and grabbed the box. For a moment, she just held it, feeling the weight, savoring the anticipation. Then she tore into the paper, the pink dollhouse, the same one she'd circled in the catalog with purple crayon, the one she'd written, "Please Grandpa," next to, with the backwards P. The little display window was new. I'd had it replaced at a hobby shop downtown. The tiny furniture inside was arranged perfectly, just like it should have been from the beginning. "Grandpa." Michelle launched herself into my arms, nearly knocking the wind out of me. "It's perfect. It's perfect. Thank you, thank you, thank you." I held her tight, breathing in the smell of her strawberry shampoo, feeling her small heart beating against my chest. "You're welcome, baby girl." Carrie was watching us, tears sliding down her cheeks. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. Later, after Michelle had set up the dollhouse in her room and was busy arranging the furniture for the 100th time, Carrie sat beside me on the couch. "Daddy, I need to say something." "Go ahead." She took my hand. I was scared. When all this started, I was so scared of what might happen. "I told you to let it go. I told you it wasn't worth the fight." She paused. "I was wrong. You were trying to protect me. I was trying to protect myself from losing you. But what you did, standing up, fighting back, showing Michelle what courage looks like." Her voice broke. "I've never been more proud to be your daughter." I squeezed her hand. Didn't trust myself to speak. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. Through the window, I could see Michelle's bicycle leaning against the garage, purple streamers still on the handlebars. I could hear her in the other room, talking to herself as she played, making up stories for the little dolls in their little house. This is what I'd fought for. Not revenge, not money, not even justice. Really. This, right here, the right to sit in my own home, with my own family, and feel like I belonged. "You don't belong here." Derek Sloan's words. The last time I'd let them echo in my head. Because he was wrong. I belonged here. I'd always belonged here. And no badge, no uniform, no smirk could ever take that from me again. I thought about him sometimes, where he was, what he was doing, whether he'd learned anything. I didn't wish him harm. But I didn't wish him well either. He'd made his choices. Now he had to live with them. That's what justice looks like. Not a handshake. Not redemption. Just consequences. He lost his badge. He lost his pride. He lost the power he'd used to make people feel small. And I got to keep mine. Michelle ran into the room, clutching a tiny plastic chair from the dollhouse. "Grandpa, look! The furniture fits perfectly now." I smiled and pulled her onto my lap. "Yeah, baby girl, it does."